How does a screenwriter with no connections break into Hollywood?
You got to get some connections. So yeah, it's hard. You can't do this on your own. There's no formula for that. Hollywood is a company town, and it's a very, very small town. I think in the book I even say it's like Mayberry, which I think might be an older reference. I don't know. But it's everybody knows everybody, and we're all maybe 2 degrees of separation. So I feel like there's not anybody in this town that I can't get to within 2 phone calls or emails. And I think that's, when you've been here long enough, you just know more people. And because people like to work with people they know, they want to work with people who've been vouched for, somebody's, a recommendation, some sort of, someone who's connected to someone else, because they want to make sure that you can deliver. So there's that whole factor that just sort of let's just set the table with that right there. When you're trying to get into Hollywood, you got to use the people that you do know. And you can meet people everywhere. So there's a ton of festivals. A lot of people go to festivals or panels or whatever gatherings they can. And one connection will lead to many other connections. And I think the great thing about a lot of the festivals these days is that people are there because they want to help. They want to connect. I was at Austin Film Festival, and I think within a couple of weeks, I was also at Catalyst that's in Duluth. And the feeling is the same. So you go to South by, you go to any of these festivals, and there's this feeling of we're all artists here. We all are doing the same thing. We're all hoping to pass along our knowledge. That's why the people show up, the senior people, the seasoned writers and directors and cinematographers and everybody who's there making something. They're there to pass along that knowledge. There's a wealth of opportunities to connect and make connections. So start there. We're now in a place where now the universe is connected by, the internet and Zoom, thankfully. And you can even do it from the comfort of your own home if you're not in Los Angeles. But it does take work. And it takes work even for me. I'm constantly reaching out to people. And I've known a lot of these people I grew up with them, since I got out of college and even before in high school. My first job was a hookup from a high school friend. And every single job after that has been a hookup from someone that I know. I did not get any of this on my own. Not a single position was a blind call. So that's how it works for most people. Even if you are not, I use the Palchos a lot, but even if you're not a Palcho, you're not sitting around the table as a kid learning from your father and your mother how to navigate the situation. Even if you don't have that, you're not connected and there's no nepotism that you can draw on, you can do it. I did it. My parents were in the dental field. My mom was a dental hygienist when I was growing up. She then taught dental hygiene, and then she went on to become a dean of a college. And my dad was obviously my stepdad was a dentist. So I was only connected through the friend that I had who was working for Dolores Robinson at the time. That's all I had. And it worked. So you have to rely on those connections. They will get you your first and your last job.
So then, in a sense, you would have to be out here to make those connections, or no, in today's world, you can make them social media?
I think you do both. I think it's, at a certain point you do, if you really want to supersize your career, you sort of should be in Los Angeles. Now, again, that is a pre-pandemic mindset. Now it's post-pandemic. Maybe we're getting there. So there may be a factor where we will come back to in-person. I prefer in-person because there's just, you vibe off of people very differently than you do over Zoom, where you just have I've got a glass in front of me, you've got a glass in front of you. And there's just this weird chasm between us of whatever the internet is, microfibers or whatever. So we are in this situation where we are forced to create relationships that aren't real relationships. We're forced to do that. But when you're sitting in front of somebody and you're having a meeting or you're doing breakfast, lunch, or dinner, and you are really connecting, and you don't have a time clock on you, you don't have your Zoom's not going to run out in 30 minutes, but you really have a chance to get to know someone and hear about their lives and what do they, what do they like to eat on their spaghetti, whatever it is. There's something that happens when we are creating those relationships and those friendships. And then you have to nurture those and you have to keep them up. So how are you going to do it? You have to schedule another Zoom. So is it doable? Of course it's doable. Everything's doable. And there's no right and wrong answers. It all works, but it's a little harder. It's people have to know you, and then people have to be able to connect you with the other people that they know. And it's easier to do that when you are in one place. And in the book, I say, look, the trick of it is that if you live somewhere outside of Los Angeles, and again, we're talking about in-person events, you're outside of Los Angeles and you come to LA 2 weeks out of the year. Well, then everybody who you are relying on to connect you with other people have to work their schedules around you, and they have to try to figure out how to fit everybody that they want to connect you with into that 2-week frame and time frame. And it's not fair to anybody on any side. And usually those meetings get canceled. It's canceled all the time. A friend of mine Carrie McCool used to call it cancelicious. She used to say, oh, your lunch is canceled. It's cancelicious. So yeah, you're going to have to come into a situation where you are available at the drop of a hat. And you might find that there's a party or there's a screening or there's a gathering at the academy that you want to go to, and it's happening tomorrow night. And if you have to book a flight and you can't get in, then you're not going to be at the party with the rest of us. So at some point, you have to figure out a way to do it. In the meantime, though, there's a lot of prep you can do. You can create a social media profile. You can make relationships that way. You always have to be a value add to whoever you're reaching out to. Just don't ask them for, hey, can you read a screenplay of mine? And the answer is always going to be no. But you have to figure out a way to create a relationship long distance.
What if someone's like this hot young writer, let's say on the East Coast, and they have an IMDb Pro account and they've gone through the top 30 and then they've filtered out the next top 30. They're sending these queries out and they're just here for a short time. Is that really going to work though? Because in some ways it's disingenuous because you're just like, hey, I'm here. Let's network, i.e. help me out. Help me get to the next level.
Sure.
And people in LA that have been here a while or have grown up here, as you have, they can smell that a mile away. And it's off-putting because you're like, oh, they need me for something.
Yeah.
It's not because they want to hang out that's
right. Well, those are that's not nurturing a relationship. That's being very transactional. It's I need something from you. And again, you're talking about somebody who's not offering something, except maybe finding the next big thing. But everybody thinks they're the next big thing. So, and we've heard that so many times, and then we've been burned by it so many times. Like you read the script and you go, nah, it's not that great. So we are very cautious about how we're going to spend our time and what we're going to, if I'm going to crack open your script and spend an hour reading your script, I want someone to have vouched for you. I want someone to have told me, hey, this is worth it. So I'm probably not going to take your word for it because you think you're brilliant and I might not think you're ready yet. Not that you aren't going to be brilliant eventually, but maybe you aren't brilliant enough for whatever opportunity I might have. So yeah, you have to figure out a better way to do that. And I think a good gauge is then enter a competition, enter a program, get a little vouching for by somebody who we already have bought into their level of taste. So when you're anointed by Sundance, then we know that there's a bar, you've just sort of leapfrogged over a lot of other steps. So you can do it that way. So get noticed, get known where you are.
Right. And on the flip side, and I realized I took a negative slant with that. And on a different slant, I saw a woman on Screenwriting Twitter say, I just want to say to all the screenwriters out there who haven't gotten work from Screenwriting Twitter to not feel badly because so many people are promoting that, hey, I just landed this and I just,
Right.
And it's all looking so rosy. And she said a lot of people can then feel bad because they're not getting that. She's like, I've gotten 2 possible job offers and none of them happened. And I just want people to know, don't think that it's you, because it's a small percentage. What do you think about that?
I really love that she did that. I think that's terrific. And again, that's why I love Screenwriting Twitter. I love those threads because people are very, very kind and very supportive. And they all know how hard it is. And there are a lot of people who are on that who are very successful, who are saying, look, it's hard for me too. And careers go ups and downs, may have ups and downs, and not everything's rosy. And people do tend to filter all of the negativity because they don't want to seem like they're complaining or, that they're not making it happen, when so many other factors go into whether somebody sells something at that moment or doesn't sell it. So yeah, I do think I would say to everybody, take heart. If you read Stephen King's On Writing, it's, he was like, he'd gotten so many rejection letters. I think, there's so many people out there who have had that experience where it just feels like it's Sisyphus trying to roll that boulder up a hill and you aren't getting anywhere. And then eventually you do. Or you find another way to make your inroads, or you find a different definition of success. And again, not everyone's going to write a Marvel movie, nor should everyone want to write a Marvel movie. But if that's your barometer for success and you are missing all the other opportunities out there, then you have to figure out, why are you a writer in the first place? What are you trying to do? What do you want to accomplish? But I do feel as though I love that she is out there singing the truth, because that's important for people to acknowledge. It's not all roses. But the great part about writing is that it is in itself a reward. So regardless of whether or not I ever sell anything again as a writer, the writing itself for me, when I write something really good that I think is that I enjoy, that I want to go back to and read again, then I feel as though there's that, at least I have that. And then hopefully everything else, you want to make money, you want to make a living. That would be really awesome. But yeah, you have to figure it out for yourself.
Well, and then On Writing with Stephen King, there was another part to that book, which was he'd established himself, but now he was needing to, live a certain lifestyle in order to churn out pages, and changing that as well. So that's something that everyone just thinks, if I can just get to this part, but what about sustaining that part? Sure. So that's something that, no, we don't want to hear that part, because it's all going to be magical once we get there.
Right.
That, don't worry about me. I'll be fine here.
Well, we see the challenge in front of us. We don't always know what's going to be after that. That's another little thing that you go, oh, I didn't realize. Once I stepped over the cliff, I didn't realize, oh, there's another whole mountain that I have to climb.